I will start production possibility curve, PPC, and this is also called production possibility frontier, PPF. Generally speaking, this is called production possibility curve. Now, what is a production possibility curve? So, we shall deal with first the meaning of production possibility curve. A production possibility curve is the curve which shows various combinations of two goods. We are assuming that the economy is producing two goods. So a production possibility curve is a curve which shows various combinations of two goods that can be produced with available techniques and with a given amount of resources. Thus, if we simplify the meaning of this, then the production possibility curve is the locus, the path traced out by a moving point, the locus of various points which show various combinations of two goods, two commodities that are possible to be produced, that can be produced in the economy of a country with the available techniques of production and with the given amount of resources. So this is the meaning. Now, let's see how we derive it. How we derive the production possibility curve. For that, we shall take the example. Now, what's the example? In our example, we assume that in the country, in the economy of the country, two goods are to be produced. And the two goods are butter and guns. B-U-T-T-E-R, butter and guns. Now here is a table which shows the first column is production possibilities, the combinations. Butter, million kg, you may ignore that. Guns in thousands, you may ignore that. Just you may consider units. And the last column is marginal opportunity cost. Marginal opportunity cost of butter. Okay. Now we assume that the entire economy spends all its resources to produce these two goods. Nothing is saved. All the resources are to be utilized to produce the two goods. Then, in the first time period, all the resources of the country or the economy are used to produce all guns and no butter. That is why the first value that has been put here, 0 butter and 15 units of guns. That means 15 units of guns are produced and no butter. That implies no butter is produced. The entire economy is producing guns only. This is combination A. Okay. And the entire resource, all the resources are utilized. Now in the next time period, the resources of the country, the techniques of production, the technology remain the same. That same amount of resources the country has. And the country uses the same resources for the production of these two goods, butter and guns. And now we assume that the economy, that is the producers and the businessmen and the organizations, the companies and the government, the economy wants to produce one additional unit, one more unit of guns, of butter. That is why it was 0, now it's 1 unit of butter. Can the economy produce 15 units of guns? No, it has to be reduced. So it gets reduced from 15 to 14. Now this second combination, we name it as B, combination B. And in this second combination, what's the combination? The combination is 1 unit of butter and 14 units of guns. Now, in this case, when one more unit of butter is to be produced, then how much amount of guns production is to be reduced? 1. This 1, that is the amount of guns production which is to be reduced for the production of for the production of 1 additional unit of butter. For the production of 1 additional unit of butter, how much amount of guns production is to be sacrificed, is to be given up, is to be reduced? That is the marginal opportunity cost of butter. So how much? 1. See here, the first value is 1. though the first value in the column is hyphen, hyphen means cannot be determined, because the first value in case of combination A was 0 and 15. Was there anything before that? No. Then how can we determine the first value in marginal opportunity cost? Because nothing we can determine that how much amount of guns production is to be reduced when something more, one more unit of butter is produced. That we cannot determine in the first case. That is why in the first value of the marginal opportunity cost, the last column, it is hyphen means cannot be determined. But in the subsequent values we can find it out. Okay. Now from combination B, if we move to combination C, that means the economy wants to produce again one additional unit of butter from 1 to 2, and then again some amount of guns production is to be reduced. How much amount of guns production is to be reduced? From 14 to 12. Then how much amount? 2 units. 2 units of guns production is to be reduced when one more unit of butter is to be produced. Then see, the marginal opportunity cost in this case, it is 2. Then combination D, that is 3 units of butter, and for that again some amount of guns production is to be reduced. From 12 it becomes 9. Then how much amount of guns production is reduced? 3. See here the value is 3. Then combination E, in case of combination E, butter production is again increased by 1 unit. It becomes 4 from 3. From 3 to 4. And then for that one additional unit of butter production, how much amount of guns production is to be reduced? From 9 to 5. It is 4 units. 4 units of guns production is to be reduced. That is why here the marginal cost of opportunity cost of butter is 4. And now the last value. While increasing the amount of butter production in this way, now it comes combination F, when 5 units of butter is produced, and for that again one additional unit of butter being produced, guns production is reduced from 5 to 0. Then how much amount of guns production is sacrificed or reduced? It is 4 to 5. That is 5 to 0. How much? 5. So this is the tabular analysis. Now from this tabular analysis, if we plot these two, butter and guns, these two, if we plot in a graph, see the graph, then 1 0 15 0 15 1 14 2 12 3 9 4 5 and 5 0. If we plot these and join them, then we get a curve like this, exactly like this, and this curve is called production possibility curve. Production possibility curve, PPC. Why? Because all the points on this curve shows various possibilities, various combinations which are possible to be produced. That is why. Okay, so this is how we derive the production possibility curve. Now here one thing, this marginal opportunity cost of butter, this amount of guns production, amount of butter guns production which is to be reduced, which is to be sacrificed when one additional unit of butter production is added, is increased, then the amount of guns production which is being sacrificed or reduced, that is increasing gradually. See, 1 2 3 4 5, which is increasing. Now this is because the resources, initially the resources were utilized, were trained, were employed or trained to produce butter, and then gradually and slowly those resources are utilized, those resources now converted, transformed from the production of butter to the production of from the production of guns to the production of butter. Because initially it was 0 butter and finally it becomes 5 units of butter and 0 guns. That means all the resources are being converted or transformed to produce more and more units of butter instead of guns. So more resources, more laborers are to be trained, and then they are to be employed. That is why the marginal opportunity cost of butter is increasing gradually. This is what happens. So I have discussed what is a PPC, what is production possibility curve, and how do we derive it. Now, assumptions of PPC. Assumptions of production possibility curve. While deriving this curve, while analyzing, certain assumptions are made. What those assumptions are? 4 assumptions are made. First assumption: the amount of the productive resources are fixed. The amount of productive resources are fixed. Nothing more, nothing less. The resources remain fixed. Number 2, there is no change in technology. There is no change in technology. The technology remains as it is. Number 3, all the productive resources are fully employed. All the productive resources are fully employed. I've said already that all the resources are entirely spent on the production of the two commodities. Nothing is saved. And the last assumption, the 4th assumption, is resources are not equally efficient in the production of all the goods. The resources are not equally efficient in the production of the goods. This implies that as the resources are transferred from one production, one use to another use, then there's a decrease in their efficiency, resulting in the increase in the marginal cost of production or marginal opportunity cost of production. That is why I was saying that marginal opportunity cost of butter is increasing. Anyway, these are the assumptions. Now we come to the characteristics. The characteristics or the features. The characteristics or the features of PPC. There are only 2 characteristics. There are only 2 characteristics in case of PPC. First one, the PPC slopes downwards to the right. In another way we can say, in other words we can say, the PPC is downward sloping. Obviously, this will happen because when the production of one is increasing, the other production gets decreased. So when one variable increases and the other variable decreases, then obviously the curve depicting the relationship between the two will be downward sloping, negatively sloped. That is why the PPC is downward sloping. Now, the second one. The second characteristic, the second feature of the PPC is it is concave from the origin. Now, this feature, that a PPC is concave from the origin, this implies that the marginal opportunity cost of production of one with respect to the other is increasing. As the marginal opportunity cost is increasing, that is why the PPC is concave from the origin. Okay, so these are the 2 characteristics of PPC. Now the last topic in this part regarding PPC, and that is how do we use production possibility curve? How can we utilize PPC or production possibility curve to depict or to represent different basic economic problems, different problems of an economy? Okay, now let's focus on this diagram. If I focus on this diagram, see just the usual shaped PPC is drawn, concave from the origin, downward sloping. Now, there's a point K. If I point this one, the point K, we find, see, PPC is this one, the PPC, and the PPC shows the maximum limit of the resources that the country has, maximum limit of the resources that the economy has. And this point K represents such a combination which requires something more, that is resources, more resources. But this combination of the two goods cannot be achieved, cannot be attained, because the resources are not enough in the country. That is why this point K depicts, represents, or implies that the problem of scarcity is there. Problem of scarcity, SCARCITY, that is resources in the country, resources in the economy are scarce. There's a shortage of resources. That is why the point K is beyond the limit of the resources. That is why, as it is beyond the limit of the resources, the country or the economy cannot produce, cannot attain that combination. Okay. Second problem. If I point out these 2 points, C and E, C and E, then we find This shows problem of choice. The problem of choice. Which one to choose? If point C is chosen, then it is more guns and less butter. If point E is chosen, it is less guns and more butter. Then which one to choose? The economy has to decide. So this is depicting problem of choice. Now, next problem, it is problem of what to produce. Problem of what to produce. Again, those 2 points C and E will show the problem of what to produce. If point C is chosen, then more guns and less butter. If point E is chosen, more butter and less guns. Then here the decision is regarding what to produce and how much to produce. What to produce? Okay, both the goods. Whether it's point C or E, in both cases, it is both the goods. That is guns and butter. But how much of these two? How much of guns, how much of butter? There, that problem of choice is related to this. If point C is chosen, if the point C is chosen, then more guns and less butter. If point E is chosen, more butter and less guns. Now, next one. Suppose if we now focus on this point H. This point H shows that the resources in the country, the resources in the economy are not utilized fully and efficiently. This is problem of efficient utilization of resources. Problem of fuller utilization of resources. So we can say this point H denotes, represents, implies, depicts the problem of full and efficient utilization of resources. If point H is chosen, then this problem arises. That is, resources in the country are not fully employed, fully utilized, and the resources are also not efficiently utilized. Now we come to the last problem, and for this last problem, that is problem of economic growth. Problem of economic growth, we have to change the diagram. For this problem of economic growth, we have to focus on this diagram. See, there are two parallel PPCs. There are two production possibility curves here. One solid line and the other one, the outward one, is a dotted line. Initially, the PPC was the solid line PPC. Then, after economic growth, after the country has economic growth, then the PPC shifts towards right. You can see the arrows. The PPC shifts towards right and becomes the dotted line. There's a rightward shifting. Why? How can this happen? When the resources in the country increases. The resources in the country increase, technology becomes advanced, technology becomes better, more resources, better technology. That means the people of the country, the workers in the country, the laborers in the country, they are able to produce more. If they are able to produce more, they can earn more. Production in the country, production of output in the country increases. More selling of the output, more income earning. Thus, there will be increase in the per capita income, per head output also. And that implies economic growth. This diagram, this rightward shifting of the PPC depicts the economic growth. Because it's a problem. It is not so easy to achieve. Okay, in this regard, I would say something that if the question is when there is depletion, this is when there is increase in the resources. If there is depletion of resources, if there is depletion of natural resources and other resources in the country, then what would happen? If there is depletion of the resources, then the PPC would shift towards left. They would be leftward shifting. This diagram shows rightward shifting. If there is depletion of resources, then there would be leftward shifting of the PPC. That's all. This is all regarding everything regarding PPC. And before ending, one more thing. PPC is also called transformation curve. PPC is also called transformation curve. Now why? PPC is also called transformation curve because actually PPC, production possibility curve, depicts a society's menu of choices between two goods. It tells us that if the economy wants to produce more of one commodity, it will have to transfer its resources or divert its resources from the production of another commodity to the production of this commodity. That is why the PPC or the production possibility curve is also called transformation curve, because the resources are being transformed from one use to another. That's all. This is all regarding PPC.